Ecclesiastes 5, Solomon says, whoever loves money never has money enough. Now, what I've done is paraphrased, so what's on the left is God's inspired word. What's on the right is my uninspired word, but I hope I'm fairly summarizing or paraphrasing what's being said. Whoever loves money never has money enough. And I would paraphrase it, the more you have, the more you want. Solomon says, whoever loves wealth is never satisfied with his income. The more you have, the less you're satisfied. Solomon says, as goods increase, so do those who consume them. What does it mean? Well, the more you have, the more people, including the government, will come after it. Right? Goods increase, so do those who consume them. It's just a law of life. Solomon says, and what benefit are they to the owner except to feast his eyes on them? The more you have, the more you realize it does you no good. In other words, what does you good is the very basics. Food and clothing. Shelter. Okay? That does you true good. But then when you look at all the stuff, I mean, look around us. You know, I read books on simplifying your life and people who recommend find 300 things in your house that you don't need and get rid of them. And at first you think, 300 things? That's impossible. Well, if you count little things, it's really easy. Like little things you haven't used. I got a drawer at home where there's an eraser like we used to use in grade school. I bet that eraser has not been used in 30 years. I never use an eraser. My wife doesn't use an eraser. Why would you use it? And if we did, we have a few of those old pencils, which we don't use, and so why would you have an eraser? But they got those erasers on the end of it. So this eraser that's sitting there, seriously. Okay, so that's a minuscule example. How much silverware do we have, or how many glasses do we have? Mugs. Oh my word, how many conferences have I come home with mugs? My publishers send me mugs, and I like mugs, but I got mugs that I've never used and will never use, and I'll clear them out every once in a while. Someone said, the sleep of a laborer is sweet. Oh, this is so profound. Whether he eats little or much, but the abundance of a rich man permits him no sleep. The laborer doesn't own very much, so he doesn't wake up worried about what he owns. Hey, it's not that much. What is there to worry about? Literally, what is there to worry about? Whereas the abundance of the rich man permits him no sleep. Why? Because the more you have, the more you have to worry about. A friend of mine owns a big firm down south, and it's a family-owned firm, and he lives in a pretty wealthy neighborhood, and he was telling me the story. But this guy's a very, very generous giver, and he tells a story of a neighbor who owns a jet and owns houses in a number of places, including in Florida, and I forget what state he's in. I think it might be Tennessee, so his neighbor was telling him how he's looking forward to this weekend because the whole family was going to get together and they were going to have a big barbecue. And then it came Saturday and he saw his friend, obviously in a pretty sour mood, and his friend's going out to his car and he's got a little bit of luggage with him. And so my friend Hugh goes out and says, well, I thought you were having your big barbecue today. He says, yeah. He says, we were, and they are going to have it without me. The roof blew off our house in Florida, and I got to go down there to supervise the construction. So he was driving to the airport to fly in his private jet to go to his third house or whatever it was in Florida. The more he had, the more he had to worry about. So he couldn't, quote, couldn't, chose not to spend the day with his family at the barbecue that he had looked forward to because he was enslaved to what he owned. The more you have to worry about. And Solomon said, I've never seen a grievous evil under the sun. Something's probably such a grievous evil, maybe something's left out there. Wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner. Meaning, the more you have, the more you can hurt yourself by holding on to it. Wealth hoarded to the harm of its owner. Wait a minute. When you hoard, you're motivated. The reason you're doing it is you think it's for your good. But in actual fact, it's to your harm. And we see this with the rich fool. Not only when he died, but even while he was still alive, he was just held in orbit by his stuff.